Friends, today is Saturday, the 17th of October. We're in the cathedral. Obviously, we just completed our celebration of the Eucharist, and today we celebrate the feast of St. Ignatius of Antioch. We're probably more familiar with St. Ignatius, who founded the Jesuits, but this is the very early martyr and saint, St. Ignatius of Antioch. And in the Gospel, Jesus assures us that he will be with us and assist us in times of persecution. And thus, it's the perfect gospel for this feast that we celebrate today. St. Ignatius of Antioch, Antioch in Syria. Antioch, an ancient city, ancient see, just north of Jerusalem in Syria. And St. Ignatius followed after St. Peter, and thus the successor of Peter in the see of Antioch. And from the very earliest centuries, and here this is 107, from the very earliest centuries, the church has been persecuted for preaching the truth. And why should it be any different today? We preach the same truth that St. Ignatius did in 107. And when the truth is preached to the world, there's trouble. There's persecution. Yesterday, we recall, I said that we should shout the truth from the housetops. All that is hidden will be revealed. But then we have to face the consequences. And our gospel today tells us, well, what should we do? What should we do when we face that persecution? And it says this: when they take you before synagogues and before rulers and before authorities, do not worry about how or what your defense will be, or about what you are to say. For the Holy Spirit will teach you at that moment what you should say. Not to worry. The important thing is to preach the gospel, and when you're dragged before authorities and so on, well, the Holy Spirit will take over. Let the Holy Spirit do the Holy Spirit's work. Today we may not face that same persecution, at least in this country. Probably what we really encounter more is an indifference. We can shout and shout and shout, and people are simply indifferent. Or perhaps they are simply closed-minded. They won't listen, or they might ridicule, and so on. But the important thing is the mandate we have received to preach the gospel to all people, to sow the seed and let it go where it will. I am always kind of pleased and surprised when I hear from someone who says that you said something 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when you were in this parish or that parish, and that really moved me, and it changed my life, and I've never told you that. I'd like you to know. And it's always a satisfying moment. Just recently, somebody emailed me and said they had seen our bulletin in the home of his aunt, and he happened to pick it up, and he read my column. And he said that column, whichever one it was, inspired him to once again take a look at the church. Remember what Mother Teresa said? She said, that God does not require that we be successful. Mother Teresa, God does not require that we be successful, only that we be faithful. Only that we be faithful in spreading that seed of the word. Today, the feast of St. Ignatius, I want to conclude with a quotation from one of the writings, one of the letters of St. Ignatius of Antioch, 107, again, very early, arrested in Antioch and sent to Rome to perhaps die at the Colosseum. He certainly was martyred. We're not sure it was in the actual Colosseum we see in Rome today, but he was sent to be thrown to the wild animals. And on the way, it's quite a distance from Antioch to Rome. He wrote 7 letters to various churches in the Middle East. And in one of those letters, very famous quotation here I'm going to read, one of those letters, he says this: I am writing to all the churches to let it be known that I will gladly die for God. Let me be food for the wild beasts, that is the wild beast in the Colosseum. Let me be food for the wild beasts, for they are my way to God. I am God's wheat. I am God's wheat, and shall be ground by their teeth, so that I may become Christ's pure bread. Beautiful quotation. I am God's wheat, and shall be ground by their teeth, of wild animals, so that I may become Christ's pure bread. It is that same Eucharist that we receive today, the same Eucharist that inspired St. Ignatius. We receive that Eucharist as well to strengthen us, to preach and to live the gospel. Hold that thought, and we'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is Sunday, the 29th Sunday of Ordinary Time.